Time to go through the papers of the day with the political editor of The Sun on Sunday, David Wooding, and also joining us in the studio is author Nichi Hodgson. It's a pleasure to have both of you. Nichi, let's start with, it's the front page of many papers, the Mirror, also I've got the Times here as well. Fears queues at the airport could be here for months. It's the great getaway, it's half-term, Platinum Jubilee weekend, but it's proving problematic.
Oh my gosh, this is so depressing for so many people. So, so many families have been looking forward to a holiday. Maybe it's the first holiday they've taken since the start of the pandemic. And they're literally having their holidays cancelled at the airport where they start from. And this is across the country. It isn't just one airport in particular. And the union, Unite, is saying this is the fault of corporate greed among, the aviation industry. They cut so many jobs during the pandemic for the staff of both on the airlines and at the airport, and this is the resulting chaos. It just kind of beggars belief when you see these pictures of just so many people stranded that they didn't see it coming. Why on earth didn't they have more planning to know that they would need, obviously, more staff during the holiday periods when people could finally travel, when it's the Jubilee and people are taking advantage of that extra bank holiday day? It just doesn't make any sense.
I think one of the concerns, it's in some of the papers, is that these airports, airlines are thinking, well, the cost of living is going up. Lots of people won't be taking as many holidays. We don't want to hire and recruit loads of people right now because if travel's going to tail off, we're then going to be stuck again.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of understand that, but the point is there's not even the most basic number of staff to do things like check people in, get them on the plane, sort the luggage out. I think what's so disgusting is that people literally at the point of flying are being told, no, sorry, it's cancelled. So, then they've got to somehow get themselves back home and tell their children that the holiday is over. So, I don't understand. Also, as well, it's the cheaper airlines, so it's going to affect the poorest people the worst, as ever with these kinds of things. And I feel like it needs the government to step in, actually. I mean, there has been some discussion in the House of Commons about, we've got to do something. Well, it is time to step in.
Oh, well, it'd be interesting to see if that happens and what they can actually do. There's a lot of pressure on the government, David, to step in and do a lot of things. More pressure mounting on the Chancellor, according to the Daily Mail, over cost of living and particularly fuel prices now for filling up our cars.
Yes, it seems that diesel users, diesel car drivers are suffering worse. It's now about £100 to fill up a diesel car as opposed to £72 last year. What seems to be happening is that the margins have gone up by 50%. And then on top of that, you're getting the VAT. Now, the fuel duty is per litre, but VAT goes on the overall price. So as the price of fuel goes up, VAT goes up. So the Chancellor is taking a bigger grab of the money. And there is pressure on him to give us some relief. But, of course, Boris Johnson and the Chancellor himself are angry that the cut in the spring statement doesn't seem to have been passed on to motorists. It's all been swallowed up by the rising cost of fuel now. And we know there's a war in Ukraine, and that's putting pressures on the market. But nevertheless, campaigners are of the view that the greedy oil giants, to use their phrase, are fleecing them mercilessly.
Well, you do wonder with the sort of fuel duties, you say, per litre, and yet, of course, the prices vary so dramatically from petrol station to petrol station.
Yes, and there was a time, Stephen, when you go into some of these supermarket filling stations and the price was substantially cheaper than it was in the main forecourts. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore now. It seems very difficult to find out where you can get a good bargain on filling up the car.
Yeah, very difficult.
And that's adding, of course, to the cost of living crisis as well, because lorry drivers and delivery trucks are all filling up diesel and their overheads are rising, which is adding to the cost in the supermarket.
Yeah, all costs us at the end of the day.
And the cost of people's commutes as well, of course, if you drive to work. Nichi, let's move on, if we can, to what's happening to emergency services. Front page of The Telegraph. Explain the story. You call 999. Might not be that straightforward.
Yeah, this is a really worrying story. So it's looking at the response times when you call 999 across various forces in the country. And it's saying that all forces, apart from one, have missed the targets to answer a 999 call in 10 seconds or less. So, we're talking about people in absolutely deleterious situations. Maybe it's, risk of death, that kind of situation. And the phones are just not being answered. And this is data based on 5.2 million calls between last November and April. And it showed that 29% of them were not answered within the target time of 10 seconds across the country.
Well, you want the target time to be hit, of course you do. But are they overrunning by a second, by 5 seconds, or...?
Well, it doesn't really say. I think that's the problem. It's just saying missed it within 10 seconds. So it's saying Lincolnshire, for example, or has missed the target of 90% within 10 seconds. And then... it really is kind of a lottery, depending on where you live, whether the phone will be answered when you need the police.
The thing that struck me about this story, Nikki, was Northumbria. It was 33.5 seconds to answer the phone on average. Now, that doesn't sound a lot of time, but if you're sitting there with somebody who's ill, or you've witnessed an accident of some kind, or you've been burgled, or whatever it is.
Well, there's a burglary in progress.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is an agonisingly long time. If you just stop and think of 30 seconds, 33 seconds, it's a long time.
Yeah. And just the fact that, if you don't get people at the scene of the crime, or if you don't get people very close to when the crime has been committed, there's a very little, the chance of you then being able to pursue prosecution diminishes. So this kind of target time, it has a real impact on people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
it can be life or death, of course,
yeah.
Look, David, why does I don't understand this. You have to explain it a little bit, really. The Guardian claims the Prime Minister has had a sudden lurch to the right that is angering backbenchers. And most of the backbenchers that I get it are complaining that he's not far enough to the right.
Exactly what I was going to say. It's a strange story, this. I mean, the reason Boris Johnson is under pressure is because he's lurched to the right. That's part of the reason he's in trouble with his own party, because they claim he's not doing enough Tory policies. Yeah. They think that he's pandering too much to the red wall of former Labour seats. And one of the MPs who's now resubmitted a letter is Andrew Bridgen. Now, I've never heard him complain about anybody going too far to the right in the past. He thinks Boris is a big lefty.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a bizarre reason. A lot of people... There is still a lot of trouble for Boris Johnson here, because there's a bit of plotting. There's 2 extra MPs who put letters in. Jeremy Wright, the former Attorney General, and Elliot Coburn, who's the new Carl Shelton MP. There are some people who are still worried about him. However... a lot of those were people who, usual suspects, one might say. And the main concern, one of them is Tobias Ellwood, former Foreign Office Minister, a Remainer, doesn't like Boris Johnson.
I do wonder with this, David, because the way it's all reported in the papers is that, if Graham Brady, chair of the 1922, gets enough letters, that's the end of Boris. Well, it isn't.
It isn't, no.
Is it? There'll be a vote of confidence or no confidence.
Which he will probably win.
He'll win.
Yes, exactly. And the main factor in this, we must always remember this, it's not about Partygate, it's not about whether he's going to the right or to the left, it's not about Brexit, it's about whether his own backbench MPs at this stage think he can win the next election. If not, is there anybody else among their ranks who they think can win the next election? Of course, Rishi Sunak has tanked since the spring statement, so he's no longer seen as the heir to the throne. So the question is, who, unless they can unite behind one person, they're not going to really topple Boris Johnson, unless they're just going to take a chance and get rid of him and see what comes up.
Yeah, OK. Look, we need to leave it there, but we shall see you both a little bit later on. Nichi Hodgson, David Wooding, thank you very much indeed.